In a time when gods walk the earth, an epic battle rages between the encroaching civilization of man and the gods of the forest.
When the forest has been cleared and the wolves wiped out, this place will be the richest land in the world.
You fight like a demon, boy. Like something possessed.
Now watch closely, everyone. I'm going to show you how to kill a god. Fire!
It will be a battle the humans will never forget.
One of my all-time favorite animators is Hayao Miyazaki. I'm super late to the game. I hadn't watched a single one of his movies until 2020. And I know what you're thinking, but back in the day, when I came across Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, it never really was a thing I was willing to get into. I was young, naive, and they were kids' movies, and I was a big boy. To some extent, they were marketed as family films. However, now that I've become more spiritually aware, I see the deeper meaning woven into each scene of his films. And after one viewing of Spirited Away, I nosedived into every movie of Miyazaki, going back as far as Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, I believe it was called. And I'm almost glad I never had these movies in my childhood, because these films might have glossed over my smooth brain. I might have just enjoyed the story to some extent, maybe like the colors, but it's only now that these movies have become important. So now that I have the perspective of seeing spiritual messaging in films, I began to see a thread throughout all movies. There's always been a series of strings suddenly tying all sorts of movies back to spiritual information. On one level, writers were obviously inspired by their own learnings about mythological writings, but on another, I was seeing a hidden message that danced between a variety of films and media, some more aware than others, but there was core messaging that seemed to speak out to me. Narcissistic as it is, a hidden message that seemed to be speaking specifically to me. I actually studied Carl Jung, someone who's instrumental in my awakening. And he spoke about a concept called synchronicities. Synchronicities, simply put, are just meaningful events beyond coincidence that happen at the same time or in a connected way, but without any clear cause or effect in relationship. Jung coined the term to describe how inner experiences like thoughts or dreams seem to align with outer events in a way that feels deeply significant. And once I understood the concept of synchronicities, I began to ponder about what was being synced up with. At first, the easy answer was God, but as I matured, I began to understand that such an ultimate divinity is wholly impersonal. We can tap into, the potency of divine power, but be that as it may, an entity of that magnitude is far too encompassing to concern itself with syncing up with a part of itself. Now, I know that may sound disparaging, but can you imagine communing with the activities of just one of your cells? Yes, of course, you revere your body being the divine entity that you are, but to have a direct effect on its life, I don't think you really can commune with it. You and all your massive intelligence to move throughout and manipulate your environment, you don't have the capacity to speak directly to any one of yourselves. I encourage you to try it. If you succeed, please leave it down in the comments. There are parts of your body that can be intermediaries between you and your cells. Your heart, your gut, your brain all have effective languages that can speak directly to your cells. Your heart has a magnetic field, your gut has bacteria, your brain utilizes your hormones. Your entire body is an interconnected system of languages that speak and influence other parts of your body to make up the entire ecology that is you. As below, so above. Your body has choice organs that govern your cells, and the greater cosmos has forces that govern you. That's how I came in contact with daimons. Now, as some of you might have noticed, the word daimon sounds eerily close to the word demon. The word demon is a Christian term, refers to negative entities that work as intermediaries for Satan to disrupt the flow of goodness. In the grand scheme of things, the term demons is just a new entry. and unfortunately divides divinity into a moral framework. It's understandable because as the world became more complex, antiquity's governance relied on older ways of operating, thinking in terms of tribal in-groups and out-groups, us versus them, good versus evil. Over time, the original meaning of daimon faded, and it almost became forgotten, becoming almost synonymous with the newer word demon. It marked a significant spiritual and cultural shift. The early Christian church began to boldly organize spiritual forces in a strict binary of good and evil. It reframed many pagan concepts as inherently dangerous. What was once viewed as deeply personal and often a beneficial guiding force became equated with temptation and corruption. This moral absolutism replaced the complexity of the concept of daimon with a more dualistic, fear-based worldview. As a result, much of the Western world lost touch with the older understanding of the early intermediary spirit that was meant to guide you and be a moral compass. We were cut off from our essential links to the divine and have resulted in a lacking human experience. Imagine being told that the only thing you could listen to was your brain. At first it would seem reasonable, but I couldn't imagine rejecting a gut feeling for the sake of my brain's logic. Or even worse, to see someone suffering in front of me, but get scammed because of my emotions. Sometimes you need reason. The point is, there's no individual force that is morally absolute. My heart isn't evil for wanting to help someone, and my brain isn't good for keeping me self-interested. We need to become holistic in our thinking. We need to consult the entire round table to be aptly guided. The concept of daimon originated in classical Greek thought, and in its earliest usage, a daimon was not an evil entity. It was merely neutral. It was an intermediary between gods and humans. That's it. So it was perfect to look at Princess Mononoke. Like, you can look at it on the surface as a tale of man versus nature. But for me, it's a spiritual parable about what happens when humans abandon their connection to their demonic world. In the film, the forest is alive not only with animals, but with ancient gods and spirits who once guided the flow of nature and human life alike. These beings are not passive deities to be worshipped from afar. They are intermediaries, much like daimons of the ancient Greece. They speak, they rage, they mourn, they protect. They are neither good nor evil. They just are alive. They're layered with intelligence and emotion. And as humanity pushes forward into industrialization, these spirits are dismissed, wounded, and in many cases violently stripped of their roles. The film presents us with a world in crisis, not merely ecological, but spiritual, where these gods have become demonized, the sacred have been severed. See, that's why I love this movie, because Miyazaki doesn't moralize. He refuses to reduce his characters into heroes and villains. Like Lady Eboshi, the film's apparent antagonist, isn't evil. She brings liberation to the lepers and empowers women. So Moro, the wolf spirit, protects San with the same ferocity that Lady Eboshi protects the women of her village. Obviously, both of them would kill Ashitaka without hesitation. These characters exist in a complex middle zone, just like the realm of the daimons. The absence of a clear good and evil is not moral confusion. It's an invitation to reclaim a forgotten way of seeing, one in which guidance does not come from rules or dogma, but from inner resonance. Human, nature, good, evil, sacred, profane, a world dominated by binaries. Miyazaki offers us a vision of a spiritual reality where the lines are blurred. So Ashitaka is the last prince of the Imishi, a people who were exiled and nearly erased completely from history. They once lived in harmony with the natural world, so naturally this is where we start the story. When Ashitaka's village is attacked by Nago, he was protecting his village, and in doing so, he inherits this curse meant for his people, a deadly, rage-fueled force that marks him as both blessed and burdened. Following the sacred tradition, he is exiled, and he wears that proudly. He takes on that proudly without, crying or begging at all. He literally is just like, I'm good. I know what it's hitting for, so I'm out. That's real honorable shit. Like, this is not a mission of conquest or moral crusade. It's a quiet, relentless pursuit of harmony. The cursed arm, with all its destructive potential, becomes a test of spirit. He doesn't reject it, nor is he consumed by it. He learns how to like carry it. In this way, Ashitaka becomes a living embodiment of a daimon, caught between the spiritual and the material, the human and the divine. He walks among warring factions without choosing a side, not out of indifference, but because he sees that all are entangled in the same tragic imbalance. His path is one of resistance, not against others, but against the temptation to reduce the world to enemies and allies. Where others fall to rage or righteousness, Ashitaka remains grounded. He listens, he discerns, firmly holds that middle ground as a sacred stance. In a world that has forgotten its spiritual intermediaries, Ashitaka reminds us what it means to carry a daimon within, to move with clarity through chaos, and to seek balance where none remains. San, Princess Mononoke, is a human raised by the wolf goddess Moro. She completely rejects her humanity to align herself with the spirits of the forest. Her identity isn't split. She completely believes that she is one of the spirits. So when she sees Ashitaka, it's almost just like it brings up like this hidden part of her that she really thought she could get away from. It's almost like annoying that she has to face him. But he still reminds her of the hatred she has for the humans. Like her parents literally threw her away and were just like, oh, we're going to save ourselves. And Moro takes on a compassion role and decides to save her. So when she sees Ashitaka, she sees him as the embodiment of like all things human, but yet Ashitaka stands firm in just being a real one. Like he stands 10 toes down and like doing the right thing. And I think that's honestly dope. But just to go back to like San and what she's doing, and you can see how Muro and Okoto, they all look up to like the grander forest spirit who is almost just like voiceless. It just exists all in one being. So we have, you know, smaller entities, these daimons, and then we have the grander presence of a daimon, of the forest spirit. And San is deeply tethered to her demonic force of that wild, intuitive, instinctual order to fight. She is a wolf spirit who's willing to just fight the humans and bite their heads off for whatever reason. She's just essentially anti-human at a certain point because her daimon is anti-human. And Lady Iboshi, by contrast, is not without guidance. She doesn't have a forest daimon, and she's framed for most people as the antagonist, but her daimon makes her more of a visionary, a reformer. Like I said, like she harbors like, you know, the lepers that people like nobody wants any bothers with. And she offers them like a space. She gives like the prostitutes like fair work to do. They can live a peaceful life, so to speak. So in a way of her being like an antagonist, she's, from a human standpoint, honestly like a deity. Like she's a god in a way. Like she's doing great work. Like she's protecting them, she's keeping everything in check. So when you look at the big picture, you can see like, oh, she's against the forest, but she's really for her people. It's like perfect in a way because it's really up to you and your lens and how you view it. Like I'm sure most people in just a passing view can take the stance of like San and just be like, I hate humans, like they always fucking up some shit, but you have to be in a way sympathetic to understand that everybody's motivated by their own circumstances to kind of do the best with what they have. And some people may be more corrupted. Some may fall into becoming like fully corrupted like Nago was in the beginning, where he just, because he was shot by Lady Iboshi, I'm just letting it all out the rage, and he ends up like scarring innocent bystanders by going to Ashitaka. But he brings Ashitaka into this war, this bigger war. And that's why it's perfect, because it's like Ashitaka serves as the perfect narrative vehicle because his work is passed on to you, the viewer. His journey is one about discernment, not about choosing sides, but to listen and really pay attention. His guidance is inward and unspoken. Like we don't see like his internal monologue at all. All we see is his struggle for harmony. And that is what calls forth our own inner voice to ask why he's doing what he's doing. And we have San and Iboshi on either sides of that tension, each guided by their own daimons and pulling towards the extreme. And it's literally ripping Ashitaka apart. but he speaks to both sides equally. He doesn't try to conquer the curse or transform his relationship with it and use it for, his own benefit. In doing so, he models what it really means to truly and honestly walk with a demonic force, not like possessed by it or making it your identity, but as a guide to just see, like, I do have a power to intervene, but I'm going to do what's right, regardless of being more powerful than, my enemies or my antagonist. He really handled like his whole journey with like humility and like deep alignment. And I think that's why Princess Mononoke is such a dope movie. Like, it just puts me in like a happy place. And I'm so glad that I didn't get to watch this movie as a child, because I don't think I'd have the same relationship with it. Like, it does put me into like this childlike mindset, despite never having watched this as any type of a child. Like a full grown adult, I started watching all of Miyazaki's movies, yet it still puts me in that place of like childlike wonder and amazement. So like anytime I'm wanting to like feel like a certain emotion, it's not like I don't want to feel like a child, but like it's a very distinct emotion that these movies put me into. And like, there's no responsibilities that I have. I may have done all my work or whatnot. I may be throwing on one of these movies and I'll just kick back and like get into it. Like it's really a great experience, to be honest. And it's funny that everybody in this past year started to giblify their images and trivialize this man's work, and I can see where people are coming from and seeing how AI is just this force, so to speak, that kind of just does away with like the hard work, and in a sense it kind of frames it in a way like you would be one of the forest spirit animals and you would see AI as like Lady Eboshi, but understanding that there are people who utilize these sources who wouldn't have any way of doing the things that they can do without them, like the lepers, so to speak, who are benefiting from AI. In a sense, we find ourselves in this war between the old way of doing things and this new technology. So I find it absolutely, I don't even know like what a good word is to even use that. It's like, is it poetic in a way to say that the way that this movie is not even anywhere aware of like the same conflict that it now puts itself in, like people giblifying images has created this army of people who essentially are just like, fuck AI, I don't fuck with that shit. Just in the same way like the spirits of a forest like are, I don't fuck with humans are trash. And now here we are in the middle of this conflict. Like, I honestly feel like I'm torn. Like, I really do appreciate the use of AI. I use this pretty much every day in some way. Like, I'm trying to understand it, but then on the other hand, like, I understand it is like a shortcut for some people who really are just like, oh, I can provide slop for literally pennies on the dollar. Sure, I'll do that. So I understand it's not just all good. Like, I'm not just irresponsibly using this. I understand that there are pros and cons to using the technology, but it's just one of those things. Like, you need to really find your inner guidance to find like what makes sense, what is the proper thing to do. So if you found this video inspiring, if you made it this far in the video, go ahead, throw me a like on there. It's not that big of a deal. Maybe hit the dislike button if you felt like my take was completely off. I'm on this journey just like you are, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button too, and let's keep this rolling. I'm out.